Hi everybody, welcome to History 302 with our long title name, Liberty and Revolution in Modern Europe and the Americas. This is our summer B session class, so we are doing a short 6-week course together. Some of you may have done this before, or it may be your first time. So welcome to our accelerated course environment. You should have access to the syllabus at this point, and you may want to follow along as I go in this welcome video. I am going to start by telling you a little bit about myself. So my name is Dr. Catherine Vale. You can call me Dr. Vale, you can call me Professor Vale, don't call me Miss or Mrs. Vale, please. And I received my doctorate at ASU in American and Public History in fall of 2018. So I've been teaching at ASU for quite some time. My personal interest is about science, technology, and its presentation and involvement in the emergence of the modern state. And so there are some components of our class that will tie to these ideas, especially the evolution of nationalism. But our class is specifically focused on this time period that we refer to as the Age of Revolutions. And what we mean by the Age of Revolutions is essentially this period in time where there's this explosion of revolutionary activity across what we also refer to as the Atlantic world. And we're going to spend some of our first weeks kind of unpacking these statements that scholars use to talk about this time period and this region. So when we're talking about the Atlantic world, when we bring this area together, it is not just about the revolutionary period, but certain things that tie together the region that includes modern Europe and the Americas. Notably for us, as we go through this course, colonialism and slavery, right? These are major components of understanding how the revolutions come to be, why they play out the way that they do, and what the end results and long-term effects of these revolutions are. So we're going through the 18th and 19th centuries throughout this course. There are many different things we could talk about in this class, but because we are on a 6-week time schedule, one of our big questions that we're going to ask ourselves throughout this course is on the concept of liberty, right? As you can tell from the title, right? We tend to have a general idea of what we understand liberty to be, but we want to unpack that idea a little bit because liberty means different things to different groups of people in different time periods, right? So a huge dynamic of what we're talking about with revolutions and the concept of liberty is what's happening on the ground, right? The actual fighting, the end results of the creation of a new republic or other form of governance, and then also what are the ideological components behind liberty and how these two things play off of one another, right? So a lot of our discussion board posts and a lot of our major module assignments will tie to these fundamental questions. We're also built into this question of talking about liberty in an age of revolution is what do these revolutions accomplish and how revolutionary do we actually consider these revolutions to be? So built into these ideas also, right, is how do we define something like revolution as well as defining something like liberty? So as of this point, this may change as we get closer to the semester after I've recorded this video. I'm the sole grader for this class, so if you have any questions as you go through grading, you should always contact me. My best way to be contacted is you can either use the Canvas inbox, which will send me an email pretty quickly after you send me something, or you can email me yourself at cvale@asu.edu. Either option is fine. There may be points where you'd like to talk over the phone, or that'll work out better for us. Instead of going back and forth on email, just email me first. We'll make that decision as we go, and we can set up a phone call. Normally, I would say we could meet in person, but due to our current circumstances, I don't think that that's the best idea. But I do live here in the Phoenix area, so keep that in mind in terms of time frame. Everything in the course, just like all ASU courses, is based off of Arizona's time zone, right? Which is its own sort of unique creation, right? Because we don't celebrate daylight savings. So keep that in mind when you're turning in assignments, that it's all on an Arizona time frame. In terms of talking about how this class is laid out, I want to cover the main components of this. Other things I won't touch on as much because I don't want this video to go on too long when you can just read a lot of this information yourself. But you should notice from the syllabus and from the way in which the Canvas course is laid out that this is a course that's split into 3 modules, and it is a course that is modeled off of the normal 7.5-week ASU online course, so it's shortened a little bit. If you notice, like, week 1 is not really a week, it's a couple days, and that's just so that you can introduce yourself to me and to your fellow classmates. So make sure you get that done. You can turn it in either before the semester starts, but you do want to try to get that done by July 2nd. And then we're just going to immediately hop into the work because we only have so much time. So the modules are split into these 3 components that are essentially arranged around empires, right? So we're going to spend our first module on the revolution that most of us probably know the best, which is the American Revolution. And so this is the British Empire module. Once we've started with the American Revolution, we will transition into the French revolutions. So we'll be specifically looking at the French Revolution and the Haitian Revolution. So people usually know a good amount about the American and the French revolutions. And then once we get beyond that point, it really feels like new ground for most of you. So we'll cover France and we'll cover Haiti, where we've got some very, very different components at play. And then we'll spend our last module covering the Spanish revolutions, of which there are many. This conveniently, right, is the same order in which you'll see our main textbook for this course, which is Klooster's Revolution in the Atlantic World. Your cover will look different than this because this is the version I have on hand. This is the 2009 version. Try to get the 2018 version. It may still be available for free through ASU. I know since the pandemic started, ASU has been offering a lot of textbooks online for free. I will check on that to see if that's possible, but it's not an expensive book, and it'll essentially go through all of the revolutions that we are covering. The syllabus already gives you a sense. It's basically a chapter a week. So you want to make sure, if you have not bought Klooster, that you need to buy Klooster ASAP. All of the other readings that you're going to have for this course will be available to you through Canvas. It's a variety of different types of source material. We have some primary sources. We have a variety of secondary sources as well. So we have podcast episodes. We have short articles, non-academic articles. We have some academic articles. We have some visual-centric sort of materials as well. So I'm trying to give you a variety of things to think about these revolutions and how they've developed throughout this generally fairly short time period. As you work through this course, one of the things that I want to emphasize today and will emphasize throughout the next few weeks is I do not want you to use any outside sources. So anytime you do a module assignment or you answer a question on the discussion board, you should be engaging with the sources that are being provided to you in the classroom. If you want to really use a source that you know is a solid scholarly source, especially for a module assignment, please contact me via email or Canvas inbox ahead of time so that I can approve it. I really don't want to see any Wikipedia, History.com, ThoughtCo, etc. type of websites that people really like to use. If you use websites like that, it is going to affect your grade negatively. So make sure you're using the variety of sources that are being provided to you. When we look at the module assignments, they're all pretty much set up the same way. They're all essay-based assignments. So no tests in this class, no quizzes in this class. It's just going to be module assignments and discussion board posts. So we'll be writing focused. For people who like to ask, are the assignments cumulative? Yes, right? So we're only in a 6-week time frame, and then also the nature of the course is about looking at this in a much more comprehensive international way than we typically do, right? We normally only talk about the American Revolution or the French Revolution. So all of these modules will build off of one another, which means all of the assignments will build off of one another. And the way the assignments are written is to get you to really delve into all of the intertwined natures of how these revolutions develop over time. So when you're thinking about each reading, you're adding it to the big picture and these big questions that I started this video off with. You want to use a variety of sources when you're focusing on these module assignments. Don't only use Klooster every time. I know this is our textbook, but we're using a lot of different types of sources throughout the semester, so make sure you draw on a variety of them as you work. The other thing I want to emphasize about module assignments is because this is an upper division history course, history is known to use one singular source citation style, which is Chicago or Turabian style. So that is also known as footnote style citations. That means that each of the main module assignments I will require you to use footnote style citations. So if you've never done that before, ASU Libraries has a guide on how to do this. There are also a bunch of free guides on how to use footnote style citations. So, after you do the first assignment, I can give you any commentary if you feel like, if I feel like you really missed the mark. But I wouldn't send a bunch of different emails about the citations. Just to the best of your ability, make sure that you're citing all of these things the way that they need to be cited and using footnote instead of parentheses style like we see with MLA. Aside from the main module assignments, you'll also be using discussion board fairly often. And discussion board has a new discussion every week. We've got our week 1 discussion, which is basically to introduce yourself, and then there are 6 more discussions after that. Each discussion will ask you to do 2 posts. You'll have your initial post where you're answering the questions that are being asked of you, and then a response post where you respond to a fellow classmate. I do split up discussion board into smaller groups so that you get to know a smaller group of people in the class rather than having to respond to a group of 50 or 60 people. So get to know these people in the first day because you're going to spend the next 6 weeks with them. Feel free to exchange information if that's something that you would like to do. Trying to make this as collaborative as possible in our online environment. If you're thinking, what exactly am I looking for when I look at discussion board posts, there's a couple things. The first is whether you're doing the reading or not. That's one of the main reasons for why I'm asking you to contribute to discussion board. Are you answering in vague sort of responses, or are you addressing some of the specific arguments that are being made by the readings or podcasts or what have you that I've assigned you? That's one big part of it. The other part of it is to show that you are engaging with fellow students. This is supposed to be an environment where I don't just tell you a bunch of information. I am asking you to engage with these big questions that scholars have been seeking to answer for a very long time. So there are a lot of questions I'll ask you where there's no one right answer to the question, right? So I'm encouraging you to discuss these things with the people in this class to really dig deep into these questions that are really at the foundations of many of our modern nations. When you look at what is a good response or length, I know a lot of people like to ask this in regards to discussion board. I'm not a stickler in terms of word count. I would say generally speaking, to have a solid initial post, it needs to be around 300 words. And a response post doesn't have to be as long as an initial post, but you do want to go beyond like, wow, great post, I agree, right? So add something to the discussion when you respond to somebody else. The way that the discussion will work is it will be due on 2 different days. And this is something that you want to keep in mind as you go through the class because it's not possible for me to put on Canvas that your initial post is due on, say, Monday. So you want to pay attention to the fact that your first post is due on Monday, even though Canvas will say something is due on Wednesday. So make sure you're getting both of those posts in. One of the things that I want to emphasize, because you may look at the Canvas page and think this is a lot of reading, which is true because we are an upper division class and we are in a shortened environment. Definitely read the weekly discussion board questions and the module assignments first. Because if you look at those first, you can gear your reading towards what it is that we're covering. And in most cases, we're not going to get into the nitty-gritty of what was happening in each battle. For example, we're interested in people's motivations for being involved in revolution, the ideologies behind liberty, etc., right? So focus on those big sort of questions that come along with this time period in this area, and you will be fine. So especially when you're looking at Klooster, sometimes it goes in a lot of depth about things that are not really going to be relevant for us. Just skim it, right? Learn the art of kind of just skimming academic material to get through and address the questions that are being asked of you in a given week. The way that the modules will work is Module 1 is open now. You should be able to see the first 3 weeks of the course, including this week 1. And then all of the other weeks in both Module 2 and 3 will open on July 15th. So you'll get part of the material now, you'll get the rest of the material a few weeks in, and this is just so you're not bombarded with a bunch of information, and I don't have people who try to do the entire course in 1 week, right? Because we want to make sure that you're actually going through the material, generally speaking, with the class. This is providing you the flexibility of an online course within the confines of doing the class with other people and being able to spend the amount of time that you should be spending each week on the class. So all of that being said, I want to just mention one major topic before I close us out for today on this video, and that is the topic of plagiarism. So because I've already mentioned this, that all of the assignments are going to be written assignments, and especially when we're looking at the module assignments, which are huge components of your final grade, you want to make sure that you're not plagiarizing, right? So you're not taking actual material from the readings, or don't find out that you're taking material from sites like Wikipedia. You are submitting all of these assignments to turn it in. And so this is a big issue because we're so writing centric in history classes. But the issue is when you plagiarize, it can ruin your academic career, right? This isn't just like a one-time problem. It's something that can follow you in your final transcripts and affect your job prospects. So you really want to avoid and really push back on any temptation to plagiarize. If you're struggling with the assignments or with completing something on time, I know we're still in a pandemic situation. I understand that. And I'm trying, and I will always try to work with you so that you're successful in my courses. So that being the case, always contact me, and especially I would emphasize contact me before the assignment is due. If you're having a really hard time, if you took on too many classes, if you have somebody who is infected or you yourself are infected, please keep in contact with me. We will ensure that you find success in the class, but don't plagiarize. Also, don't come to me once the class is already at its end and tell me that you've had all these issues, right? So keep in contact. I am available to you. I will answer your emails or your inboxes within 48 hours. I do have other work aside from this course, so be patient with me if you don't get something right away. As far as all the other major components of the syllabus, I'm not going to talk about them here because you can read them for yourself and not have to listen to an even longer video. But disability services are available to you. There are processes regarding contesting a grade or what a late assignment is going to look like, which is essentially a letter grade off per day that it's late. All of those things are available to you in the syllabus. If you have any final questions or concerns about anything I've talked about today or getting started in the class, if you've never used Canvas before and you're having a hard time, please feel free to inbox me or email me. My email again is cvale@asu.edu. And that being said, welcome to the course. Looking forward to getting to know all of you, learning about you and the way in which you see these major issues that continue to affect us into the present, and seeing you in the discussion board.